Welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen's Call podcast with host Lane Nordland.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cattlemen's Call podcast. Lane Nordland with you here today. We are on the ground in Fort Worth, Texas. Angus Convention 2024 is underway. Finding myself down here sitting with someone that some people may know. I mean, I think he's on Twitter, maybe, or is it X or Instagram? Well, we're actually joined by Mr. Tucker Brown. He calls Texas home from Throckmorton, Texas up there, and of course, Tucker is a great voice and educator, entertainer on the social media platforms such as Instagram. I heard he just got reinstated back on TikTok as well. But if you recall, a few episodes ago, a while back, we had Tucker and his dad Donald join us talking about how their family navigates the business here in the 21st century, transitioning family operations duties. It was a great show. But since then, Tucker has just blossomed into a... that's not a very good description as a Tucker blossom. You've grown, you've expanded. Your impact on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, and just engaging people, whether that is in the livestock business, outside the livestock business. It's entertaining, but it is educational. But thanks for joining. I'm talking a lot here, so thanks for joining us here today, Tucker.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. I like the blossom word. It's more of a beautiful growth.
Yes, yeah, you've grown so nicely.
No, that it has changed a lot since that last podcast. I mean, it's wild how fast things can change whenever you do, and it's fun whenever the hard work pays off.
Yeah,
and on anything, and even whenever it's just social media and doing some entertaining / educational stuff. But yeah, glad to be here.
Well, I know the last time we were. Where were we? New Orleans or Houston?
I think it was New Orleans.
Yeah, and because you guys hit like an ice storm or something too,
the
coming over, and
yeah.
we got to check out the borrow ditch a little bit. Yeah,
yeah, that's right. Good
but
memory.
but you know, it's been a few years since CattleCon down in New Orleans. But maybe for our friends that maybe know who you are, they follow you, or maybe there are some listeners that haven't discovered you yet. Let's just talk about the family operation here in Texas, the different components of it, from the equine to the cattle, and just the makeup of the family business as well.
Yeah, sure. So you mentioned earlier, we're in Texas. We're in the north central part in Throckmorton County, and we're the R.A. Brown Ranch. We're a family business, and we have been since 1895. And my dad and my mom and dad run it, manage it right now as the fifth generation, and I'd be the sixth. My brother and I coming back home, and then I've got two little girls raising the seventh. So the future's bright, and it's fun working with family, but whoever says it's easy is a liar. Yeah. But I wouldn't change it, because I really do enjoy working with family in that unique aspect. Yep. So we raise registered Black Angus, Red Angus, and Sim Angus bulls, and that's why we're at the Angus Convention today. You know, we love what the Angus breed has done, and its ability to help producers make that money, bring that profit back, and be able to keep their ranch, which in turn helps us keep our ranch. Yep. So we do the horse side too. We love that kind of mixture of tradition and innovation, and we're using our horses to gather our cows to do embryo transfer, and I love that mix, because I do want to hold on to tradition, but I never want tradition to suppress our success, because that's a thing in our industry that tends to happen quite often, and it breaks my heart, honestly. It really does, because I love family businesses, and it's hard to see. It hurts, because you know how much other families care about their family and their land, and when that's suppressed, it's hard to watch. But that just makes me want to, try harder and do more things to make sure that we keep ours.
Yep. Very well said. And again, we're here with Tucker Brown. We're going to take a quick sponsor break and thank our friends at Zoetis for bringing you today's conversation with Tucker Brown. We'll be back right after this. Whether you call it bovine respiratory disease, BRD, shipping fever, or cattle pneumonia, it's a problem. Zoetis helps provide BRD solutions and expertise for every stage of cattle production. When an outbreak occurs, Zoetis has a full lineup of antibiotics to get it under control quickly and get your cattle back on feed. Visit brd-solutions.com for the full lineup of antibiotic products and insights from Zoetis. All right, a big thank you to our friends at Zoetis for bringing you today's conversation with Texas rancher Tucker Brown. And, Tucker, as you've seen your social media presence grow, I mean, what What was that one video that really took off? Was it you horseback with the flag? Was that the one that really took off first, or which ones really sparked a lot of views and follows?
That was definitely one of them. Was just 4th of July, running on a gray horse with an American flag. That was one of them. As I think back, one of the first ones that actually kind of made me want to start doing it was it was during COVID, and we were trying to figure out ways to get back in front of people. There's just the brand back in front of people, and I'm a social butterfly. I love conventions like this, and we weren't able to do that. And so I kind of took to social media to get that social aspect, and I felt like everybody needed a laugh, and so I did a little spoof of Dale Brisby, and I did the seed stock super puncher, kind of making fun of my dad.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the one where it kind of went semi-viral, and I was like, ooh, this is, like, I had a blast making that, and then I can get this feedback and get the brand in front. And but I guess probably the first viral $1 million.
Oh,
gosh
darn. I mean, I don't know why you're ranching now, man.
Yeah, not $1 million. The first 1 million view video that I ever got was actually a spoof, just a funny skit of me and an intern trying to feed cows. The siren wasn't working to call in the cows, and so I used a hot shot to hot shot my intern for him to make the squealing sound of a siren to call in the cows. And so that's the fun I get to have with it. I never take myself too seriously or my social media platforms. I think it's important to add that entertainment aspect in there. And that was, I'd love to say that it was more something about cows and more something about education, but that's what it was.
So, I mean, when people hear social media influencer, I think people have their preconceived notions about it. Some people think it's somebody, pitching, beauty tutorials or murder mysteries, while people get ready, in the mornings and in short format and everything like that. And as you mentioned, you hope it's more about cows or maybe some little humor, but how do you define it? I mean, when you're sitting down and if you had to sit down with one of your forefathers and be like, well, Granddad, this is what I do in terms of ranching, how would you describe that and stay humble about it? Because I think you were very humble with it too, but you know how to have fun with it.
Yeah.
And some people in the world aren't very humble when it comes to being on there, and it's all about the clicks and views, and they spend their whole life doing it, but you're doing this on the side as being a rancher too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the influencer does come with a negative connotation, it feels like, and I'm trying to find the right word. If somebody does have the right word, please tell me. Send me the DM and tell me what that word is. Ranchfluencer is the only thing that I've come up with that may feel a little better. But it really is in today's age. It really is influencer, I think, is the word to use, because you're changing people's opinions, you're changing people's purchasing habits, you're influencing their decisions on what meal they're going to eat next. And so I really think that is the right word to use, because using social media to entertain, and I use the word edutainment, of entertaining people long enough that they watch the video, and in that video is an opportunity for education. And so they're so entertained that they didn't realize they learned something. And that's that's the challenge that I really, really enjoy.
What's the makeup of your audience when you look at the analytics? And analytics can be misleading, I know,
Sure.
and it's hard to digest them sometimes. But what is the makeup of folks that maybe are in livestock production? Age ranges. Maybe they're just consumers wanting. Well, I guess how have you delved and sieved through that aspect of things, and how you're trying to target people, or if that maybe doesn't play into some of the content you create?
Yeah. Most of I just, I guess a couple months ago, went over the 500,000 mark of followers. And every time I do look at my analytics, the largest part of my followers are from Texas, Florida, and New York.
Really?
And
New York?
Yeah. It's I don't know why. And Arizona is on there too.
Okay.
It kind of bumps back and forth with New York. The bigger cities tend to be on there. Fort Worth, San Antonio, Austin, New York, Atlanta, and Tucson are the ones that I just most often see, but there's not 500,000 agriculturalists that are watching my videos, and I really think that a large portion of my audience is not in the agriculture business. And I thought that social media would be, I was making those videos for people who would relate to it, which was ranchers. But come to find out, more and more of the questions I got were people from outside of agriculture.
Yep.
And I was like, wait, I can just post the simplest thing. And I was like, okay, now I can become a bigger part of the story. I can post me saddling a horse, and more people are interested in it and want to know more and tell me they saw something on Yellowstone, and I can help be a piece of the education or building the trust back between the consumer and producer, and I love that. That's not to say I don't have ag followers, because I do. People at conventions like this often heckle me about the videos they've seen, or people who show up to the bull sales, and that's fun.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah.
Because I work in media. We're multimedia. We're TV, radio, social media, and you always have someone that has to come up and heckle you a little bit. You take it with grace. But how is that dealing with some? Because I would also assume that your biggest critics also come from the agriculture space too.
Yeah, that's very true.
And how do you stay humble, polite, but maybe call a spade sometimes too?
Right. I enjoy the heckling. I think that's one of the biggest forms of flattery in the agriculture business, when somebody is heckling you, because it means they watched it. And if they're willing to say something, normally they watch it and don't say anything. But if they're willing to say something, there was a positive influence there, I believe. So the heckling is fun. At the beginning is when I had probably more critics in the ag industry of me saying, I'm wasting time, I need to get off my phone. But once you turn around and see, I'm reaching millions of people a month. And once the data starts to show that, I think success is a really good, treatment, a really good medicine for that. And they're like, oh, you making some more videos? I was like, yeah, I am.
Well, and you don't need to get into specifics here either, but obviously the more views you get, the more followers, the more those analytics grow, you can monetize it. You can do collaborations. You can do sponsorships. How has that changed the way that the time you spend in the production? Who helps you with production? Kent Rollins, the chuck wagon cook, we had him on a few weeks ago. I love watching his content. That's just him and his wife producing it, and they produce a lot of good content. What's it like for you and your team when you're out and about? But again, when you are being successple, you can make money off it. But again, if you're not comfortable sharing some of that stuff either, and I'm not pushing on it, but it helps make better content.
I agree. I really do like to talk about it, because most of the people are uncomfortable, but I think it's so important to share that for my family, it has been really a life-changing influence as far as monetization, because it is paying me more than the salary that I get from the ranch. And anybody who works for their family knows that salary is normally not what you're getting rich on. It's been incredible that I can do what I love, that I can tell the stories that I love about the industry that I love, and that I'm able to monetize that. And that I'm able to pay my way to travel across the world, whether it's to the Angus Convention, whether it's to Washington State or California or Florida, to tell the story of why I do it. So it goes back to that thing that if you could do anything, if you could do anything and money didn't matter, what would you do? This was part of it. And then I get to monetize it. I mean, that's amazing. So yeah, I did hire somebody. I mean, it got to the point where I needed to spend more time on the ranch, because that is the number one job is that. And I needed to not stop. I just knew I wanted to do more, but I couldn't if I didn't have help. So I hired a friend named Willie Wardle. He used to work for Dale Brisby, and so really talented in the aspect.
I heard you poached him from Dale. That's what happened.
Not quite. I got the approval. So he had left Dale's and was really kind of chasing his dream of bull riding, and he had gone through that and really had a lot of fun riding bulls in Utah, and then wanted to get back into it. So it worked out for he and I. I mean, I think it was God's timing and all that, that he was ready and I was ready, and So he works with me on the ranch. Yep. He videos me while I'm on the ranch. He helps me edit my long-form videos. And because of monetization, I'm able to do that, still get my ranch job done, and still get more media out.
Well, thanks for sharing that aspect of things and the creative side of things. I do want to get into maybe what you're hearing from other producers that maybe you've sparked some interest in sharing their stories and getting into this realm as well. But first, we are going to take another break, but we'll be back right after this.
Whether you call it bovine respiratory disease, BRD, shipping fever, or cattle pneumonia, it's a problem. Zoetis helps provide BRD solutions and expertise for every stage of cattle production. When an outbreak occurs, Zoetis has a full lineup of antibiotics to get it under control quickly and get your cattle back on feed. Visit brd-solutions.com for the full lineup of antibiotic products and insights from Zoetis.
Returning back here, again, a big shout out to Zoetis for bringing you today's Cattlemen's Call conversation. Answering that Cattlemen's Call, this Tucker Brown with the R.A. Brown Ranch out of Texas here. You know, we're talking about his growth and being an influencer, highlighting the livestock industry. And before the break, I posed that question, Tucker. What's it like interacting with fellow producers that maybe are in this world of sharing their stories, making it entertaining, but really sharing that firsthand experience? And what's it like maybe talking with folks that are considering, going down this road? Again, it takes time. And a lot of people don't know how much time goes into creation.
Yeah, and it's kind of frustrating to try to explain it in a way that is it's going to be a grind. Just like any new, it's part of a business, and just like any new part of a business, there's not an immediate return. Mm-hmm. I've been doing it for 3.5 years and 4 years, and I feel like I'm just finally starting to make that impact and realization and views that I want. So I think I really like it when producers ask, and they always ask in private. Mm-hmm. Rarely do they ever ask in front of an audience, because they just want to be like, hey, I know it's going that way, but what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I say? And the best part is I always say, like, all you have to do is talk about the things you love. Mm-hmm. Like, you are ranching. What are you doing that day?
Yep.
You are moving cattle. Should tell them why you're moving cattle. And I think we have to talk about the why more than the what. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, and a lot of times we don't do that.
Well, and growing up, when I was an FFA member, and they're putting a booth back together for our audience that maybe heard a bang there, but the booth is falling apart around us here at Angus Convention. But back when I was an FFA, that's when MySpace was big, Facebook was just coming around, and it was always about telling your story. And every ag convention you go to, tell your story, and you couldn't go to a meeting without having someone there that is telling you how you need to tell your story. But I think there was never a clear way of this is how you should, or here's some suggestions.
Great point.
But social media has changed so much in those 15 to 20 years as well. I think it also gives people a platform to share a lot of skewed views, or maybe not. And I guess I'm bringing up your local Larry as a good example.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it because there's nothing more frustrating to me than seeing people degrade other livestock producers to market their own product. Oh. We're all in this business together, and I have friends, and you're in this arena too. You guys market more beef, contracting your calves probably than through your branded program, but you have a branded program too to fill that niche. Yep. And so many people, they work hard at doing that. And I tip my hat to folks that start the branded programs, market directly, because it's not easy, it's not cheap, and it's hard to maintain those customers. It's not easy to do. But when we see people disparaging, putting false information out there about the color of beef, or our beef is so much healthier, we're all in this business together. And the marketing, but it's marketing. That's the world we live in.
It is.
And so the comment section on your local Larry, when you were highlighting the people that put down all the other producers out there just to put their product and make it more superior without actually having real facts and science. The comment section just Comments. People shouldn't read comments at the end of the day.
I know.
What was that like? What sparked your interest to do that? What was it like a weather? And I don't want to say you had to weather a storm. I think you were very polite and engaging with folks too about why you did it.
Yeah.
But what was that like? What sparked that? And what was that creative process like, going up to it and through it and trying to shed light on something within the industry?
Right. Well, I like to start out on that question by saying I think it's really important that as an industry that we can see our own problems. And whenever you don't see your own problems is the biggest problem. So I think it's important, one, that you can recognize your own industry's issues. And two, if we were able to laugh at ourselves a little more, man, it would be a way better world.
Yep.
So one of my favorite things to do is to make fun of myself or the industry I work in. And using humor to do that often drops the wall of people to be able to be like, okay, yeah, that's funny.
Yep.
Like, yeah, we do have that issue.
Yep.
So, yeah, I was quite frustrated with other beef producers that were putting down everyone else just to sell their product. And I don't like that in any industry. If you have to talk bad about another one's just to put yours up, I think that's a really short-term way to win.
It's like watching political ads.
Oh my gosh, it is.
It's almost over, Tucker.
It's frustrating. Yeah. Oh, it's so frustrating. And so, I never want to use a scare tactic. I just want to be able to tell, like, here's why you should buy mine. I don't want to have to talk about why you shouldn't buy the other. I just want to say why you should buy mine or buy this product. So, I knew that it was going to ruffle some feathers too, because. And the people who it was going to ruffle were those people that were using the scare tactic.
Yep.
So, we made the video of that. Were they telling the truth? Yes, but the truth, not the whole truth. Talking about, hey, you should buy mine because I don't use mRNA vaccines.
Yeah.
And then it goes back over to me, and I'm like, hey, actually, there's no mRNA vaccines in the beef industry. And just to make people laugh at it and be like, wait, I heard. Just because someone says theirs doesn't have it doesn't mean everybody else's does.
Yep.
So using that humor.
Gluten-free beef. I always enjoy that one too.
Oh,
yeah, gluten-free beef.
And we don't pump ours full of antibiotics. Using those words is really frustrating. So I always make sure that my stuff is backed by data. It's so important that what I post is true, because if I post something false, they will let me know. They will let me know. But the comment section is fun too. I enjoy the heckling there, especially whenever I know that mine is backed by data and not emotion. So, but I have to be careful too, because I know that at times in history there were times where the data was wrong. Even though it showed something, the data was wrong. And so I have to be real careful about that long-range plan for my platform.
And I think that's really good advice to share with folks that are considering sharing their story, being entertaining, and connecting with people.
Yeah.
Because we all go in our scrolling, every night. I scroll a little too much there on Instagram. I need to probably put my phone down a little more. I think all of us can agree to that. But, I guess what's another tip that you maybe have to them when they're maybe thinking about this, trying to get a start, just equiment advice? What would that be from your perspective?
Yeah, kind of the starter pack that I typically suggest. Most everyone I know has an iPhone or some sort of smartphone, and that's what I do almost all of my videos on. For 3 years, I did all of my videos on a smartphone. It wasn't anything fancy. Also, people are worried about editing, and I don't think you have to edit very much. I think people like showing the raw stuff. So I just did YouTube University. I just went to YouTube and learned a few editing tips. But whenever someone commits to this, I think you have to commit to at least 1 year of posting 2 to 3 times a week. And I think after that is when you will understand whether it is working or not. Because most do it for like 2 weeks, and then they're like, this doesn't work. And you're like, well, yeah, if you worked out for 2 weeks and never did it again, it wouldn't work.
What's I guess what's it like for your wife and kids? You and I before this were talking, because you asked, like, what's your Instagram handle? Is this your private or your public page? I'm like, oh, that's my public page, and that's why you don't see my family on it.
Yeah.
We're just private. My wife and I are with our 8-month-old and our toddler, and we share on our personal personal Facebook pages. But I guess what's that like? And how do you deal with that with that social media fame and people having eyes on you all the time? And how do you change it? How do you curb it? How do you talk as a family? I guess what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think it's for everyone to show their family. I am one of the guys that does.
And I'm not criticizing you
right,
either.
and
First
I know you're
off,
not. But I say that because I know it's a concern.
Yeah.
Right. I know that some really take it as a large concern, and I take it as a warning because we have seen bad things happen from that. We've also seen bad things happen from sorting cows with your family.
Yeah.
But I think it's a part of the R.A. Brown Ranch story is our family, our 6th and 7th generations, and so because I think that's a part of it, I'm okay with sharing it, and I just have to make sure that I know and my family knows that there's eyes on us all the time, really. And it's not that it really doesn't feel that way. We went out last night to places here in Fort Worth, and I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
Nobody knew me.
Yeah.
And I think that's a part of it. Anytime you think you're a big deal and you go out and nobody knows you, it's a pretty good sign that you are just a drop in the bucket, buddy.
Yep, exactly. And I guess how is it though traveling? Being because you do have the opportunity to go tell your story, highlight what you're doing. How's that adjustment been though too? And obviously you guys got to have a great operation here in Texas, but it's a change though.
It is.
It's hard being away.
It has been, and I'm thankful to be a part of a family that is willing to listen and willing to try to understand. And we always enjoy being innovators and keeping that in mind of when my dad wanted to be one and is, and when my mom wanted to do that. I love that they will allow me to chase my dream. And we had to have those talks of, hey, how much time are you going to spend? Because we still need you to do your job here on the ranch. And so as we've moved forward with different employees and finding the return that this social media has brought, that's the slow movement. It's been a year and a half of slowly moving towards speaking at more events, at hiring someone to help me, and my wife is awesome. She has been a stud of allowing me to go, and if she left me for 3 days with the 2 girls, boy, I would be struggling. And so shout out to her because she is a stud and is just awesome.
So obviously you get a lot of FaceTime with people, and when you're talking with other young producers, what is the feedback or the conversations you're having about the industry? I guess where things are maybe falling short for them in terms of how they can engage, why they need to engage, and just hearing, because you get to travel the nation, and it's fun talking with producers. We have similar challenges, but there's regional, personal challenges as well. I guess where are some things that you've heard that the industry maybe falls short a little bit, but what are some positive areas that you hear feedback on?
Yeah, I think a lot of people that are putting their toe in the industry. Two different sides of the story here. From the younger side of the younger generation trying to get in, they are looking for that job that they want to keep forever, and they're looking for the really good cowboy job, cows all the time, and that's just few and far between. And the guys who get it have been in the industry for a while, and I think it's a part of that grind where I've been home working for the ranch for 7 years, and people think that I just started doing social media right away, when really I had to work 5 years before I ever started to chase my little dream, right? And so, and very few people stay at ranches for 5 years. Less and less all the time. So I think part of that grind is tough for people to see whenever, and then you go to the rancher side, the owner side, of trying to hire someone and not really being a trainer. They're looking for somebody who already knows, and that's hard to find.
And that's hard.
And that's hard to find because whenever the average age is 62, 64, they're not trying to go train somebody. They're just trying to find someone that they can release. And so that's a really tough issue because training is going to have to be a part of it.
So, social media aside, what are some areas where you're trying to train yourself and better yourself as being informed on the industry, being active in the industry, and educating yourself more since you are a voice for producers out there? I guess, what's your strategy? What are some of the events you've participated in? And I guess, what you may plan in the future to expand your knowledge and experiences.
It kind of goes back to you saying they didn't really give us tips on how to tell our story. There's 3 generations that have been, or there's a generation now that's been 3 generations separated from the farm, from the ranch. And if we try to tell our story and say, I bought some 4 weights, put them on some weight, gained 3.5 a day is pretty good, but and I bought some fly weights, and we start talking like that, and we expect them to understand, and that's not the case. So a lot of my learning has been from people outside of the industry of what they think, of finding the data that NCBA has some great data that they're able to find on what consumers are concerned about, who they trust, and the questions they're asking. And I don't expect we keep saying we need to educate them, they need to come to us, and they're not going to come to us. And so I'm trying to go to them, and you said social media aside, but that's been my way of reaching that consumer. So I did the Trailblazers program, which is a part of NCBA. The Masters of Beef Advocacy helped me change the way I tell my story. Finding that data, finding a way to tell it in a way they understand has been huge for me.
I always tell people I have an MBA too.
MBA, yeah.
And my wife
I got my
me every
MBA.
time. And you went on, did you do YCC as well?
Man, YCC was the best thing I've ever done.
Young Cattlemen's Conference for folks that don't know that acronym.
It was.
Was that last year, or which year did you go
this
on
year.
Okay,
I went this past summer, or May, June, whatever that is. But, I mean, whenever you get to surround yourself with, especially whenever you are a young cattleman, when you're 25 to 40, young cattlemen, you don't get to typically go to the conventions like this because you're at home working.
Yep.
And you don't get to be around other people who are as driven as you are. You go to YCC, you're with 65 other studs who are driven, who are going to be in the industry, who are leaders, and that was amazing for me, just to be able to spend time with them, how they got their success, the problems they had. YCC was life-changing.
And you've seen it too, it's when you start to go to meetings and get active, sometimes the local Cattlemen's or Stock Grower Association throws these young guys that do have families that are working on their ranch, they throw them into leadership right away. Or they put them on a state committee in taxes, land grant, whatever it might be. And I've seen a lot of burnout in young producers. And it's especially when you get that growing family, you're buying in, you have more responsibilities, and then they may pay their dues, but they might never go to a regional or state meeting again. I guess what are some tips you have for young men and women that want to be engaged, but they're busy out in the countryside, or they have a town job as well, or they're they're industry stakeholder as well. Maybe they're not in production ag, but they're a stakeholder in a business. What are some tips you have for them on the importance of being engaged, being in a membership organization, and playing a role in having their voice and their concerns heard?
Yeah, man, that is a tough answer. That is a tough question to answer.
We should have done this podcast at night in the bar and
get
everyone's perspective.
Yeah, no, that is tough because I don't know if there's been I don't think there's been a generational skip, but I feel like that cattlemen associations and other leadership forums are really seeing the value in having younger cattlemen on, of bringing in new ideas. That's normally where new ideas come from, is somebody outside the box, right? I'm not saying that we're more important, the younger generation is more important than generations before us. I just think that's a part of every generational transfer. So it's no doubt, I think it's massively important to have your voice heard.
Yep.
But I also think we have to remember our priorities, that if our family can't take it, that that has to be priority number one. And there are times where my wife has to remind me of that.
So what are some ways the associations and fellow producers can, because there's burnout. I see it. I have friends that served as young stock growers, chairs, everything, and they get burned out. I guess what are some tips that maybe we should consider sharing with our state and national associations on keeping engagement?
Yeah, no, I think there's more of us than. I think there are more people who would like to be a part of things like this, and I know that they put it out on their email blast. I know they put it out on their Facebook pages, but
we have a fly that is just
bothering us.
Yeah, it thinks we're in the feedlot here.
I do. I think we have to remember that there are more than just a few young cattlemen that want to be a part, and finding those is kind of difficult. But if we can, help alleviate that load with more young ranchers, I think it'd be good.
What is incentivizing to get young producers to pay their dues, whether it's the state association or the national? What do you think is incentivizing? What incentivizes them to pay that? Because I think we have seen that shift in fraternal organizations back in the day. To go to the Eagles Bar in Lewistown, Montana, you had to be an Eagles member. To go to the Elks Club, you had to be an Elks member. Well, now they're open to the public.
Yeah,
and a part of those groups was serving the community. Mm-hmm. And helping improve their communities. We're seeing less fraternal and sorority-based auxiliary organizations in our society.
Yep.
And I think that is reflective in so many different associations out there too, and we have less producers in it. I guess what should associations, just your thoughts on it, what can they do to go past just saying, well, we're creating a policy book that represents you? What other things could be included in membership? I understand it. I get it.
Yeah.
But, sometimes it's tough for when folks are trying to balance books, but we need members to be able to have a strong voice.
I think it's most of the people that I see here come here, are they going to make a life-changing relationship with somebody who's going to buy their product? Mm-hmm. I don't think that happens here. But I do think that people grow their Rolodex here, and finding, just knowing more people in the industry. We're only 2% of the population, 1% of the population, whatever that is. So I don't think people value. I don't think they value the value of knowing more people, and I think our grandparents did.
Yeah,
I think they valued that a lot more, and probably because they didn't have social media, they didn't have those ways to stay connected, and this was their way. Gosh, the value of that is huge.
Well, and I hear people, when we were little, you just came to the stock growers meeting and there was 40 other little kids, and it was just every year you got to go see those people once a year, and we don't see that anymore. And I know it's expensive to come to town.
Right.
Hotels are not cheap, travel's not cheap, and even when we're on a regional or state level. And I just think that's a question we all have to ask and look at. How do we keep these multi-generational ranches going? And I think it starts at a young age, too.
Yeah.
Because you talked to a lot of these people that had young kids, or they were one of those young kids 30, 40 years ago running around.
Yeah.
They're still active. Not saying that's the case for everybody. And I don't want to say you had to do that to be active either.
Yeah. No, but that's where lifelong friendships happen.
Yep.
I think that's where you meet those people who are driven. That's where I think you learn the most. And so, I'm so thankful that my dad brought me. And I have those convention friends that I see once a year, and then you hit it off like you had been seeing each other the whole year. But, I think it's, the Angus Convention is with not doing a trade show next year. Mm-hmm. I didn't really see that coming, but as we're sitting here talking, is this what makes it super expensive? Is this what makes us have to go to a larger place? I'm just thinking out loud now.
I don't know that everybody's been asking me that. I don't know, but obviously they've been strategically planning it. But what?
And now next year, can they go to a smaller place where it may be a little cheaper for families to be able to bring their whole family? I don't know. This just kind of really opened up a box of worms for me of how is this going to change conventions?
Yeah.
But there's the Florida Cattlemen's Convention. They do a phenomenal job of making it really fun.
On the beach, we just talked with some of the Florida guys too.
And even when it's not on the beach, like they're still doing. It's in the convention, and some people never leave the hotel / convention center, even though the beach is right there. But man, they do a phenomenal job of, one, making it fun, of two, making it to where it is very friendly to families. I mean, that is huge. It's so fun to see that's just expected, and part, like, when the kids want to go, man, the parents are way more likely to go. I went to Unicorn World.
Is this in Florida?
No, here in Fort Worth.
Oh, okay.
Not because I wanted to go.
Your kids wanted.
But my kids wanted to go to. Yeah, and so if we could get it to where kids wanted to go to the cattle conventions, holy cow!
That's a good point to bring up.
Holy cow! I just think that would get way more parents involved.
Yep.
I think that would get them bought in. I think it'd be, and I think that's what keeps Florida Cattlemen's the way it is.
Yeah. I know we probably got to get wrapping up here. Folks are going to come in, but I know you're down at FFA convention down in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? I know your dad was very active in FFA, and was your mom too? Was
Both of them were national presidents.
Both of them were national. Yep. And but were you in FFA?
I was in FFA. I was a district officer, but that was even though I had the bloodline.
Yeah.
I did not reach my potential. So sad.
But what is that like now, from being a district officer and going to state and national conventions to now being an elder millennial? They give millennials too much crap still. Our knees hurt. We have gray hair. Quit blaming the millennials. We are just as grumpy at the young generation too. But what was that like? Because I always say, you meet FFA and 4-H kids, and whether they're high school or state officers, fresh in college, they want to go help solve the world's issues. They are ready to take on the world. They're excited. And it makes me miss when my knees didn't hurt and I was so, not as grumpy about the realities of life, but being resilient.
Yeah.
What was that like, and what was the engagement like, just seeing that many kids and know that, we do have a lot of strong advocates out there, whether they're in production ag or they came up through agriculture leadership and FFA or 4-H. How does that change it, and what was that like, that engagement, also just through your social media influence as well?
Yeah, it was really fun. One, because I think FFA really creates this atmosphere of teaching people how to communicate in a world that is so hungry for communication. FFA is like creating that beautiful atmosphere, this blossoming atmosphere, for young ranchers, farmers, young ladies, young men to be able to do that. And in a place where people are more separated than ag than ever, FFA and 4-H is creating that lane for people to walk through to get there. I used to not like the FFA cadence, and some I may get a little backlash for that, but
I get it.
We're at the Angus Convention today.
This is the first opening session of the Florida FFA Convention.
Yes.
So we didn't do that in Montana.
Okay.
But we did shout during opening ceremonies, which that always, when we'd say I'm so removed from it.
By the door.
Yeah, but then the member chant. People are gonna go after me there for as active and
so I used to not like that, but now I appreciate it more than ever, because that I think that shows it's like wearing an Aggie ring, that you went through this, and you have this foundation of phenomenal communication skills, which is super valuable today.
Yep.
Super valuable. I don't speak in that cadence.
Yeah.
But it's easy to recognize from a FFA family.
Yeah. I forget the exact, but to equip FFA members for success. Montana always would shout that in the national, and that's part of the opening ceremony. I am so removed from that now. I haven't even thought about an opening session in 14, 15 years, a little longer than that. But I think that's a good perspective on it too. And it's a great organization, and it does so much to highlight it. We got people coming in. I know you got to work a booth here, but just a reminder to all of our friends, we got CattleCon 25 coming up in San Antonio, Texas. Just a hop, skip, and a jump from here. That's going to be February 4th through the 6th. Just visit convention.ncba.org to enroll in that. And if you're listening to this before Thanksgiving 2024, have a great Thanksgiving. If not, I hope you enjoyed our conversation here today. Tucker Brown's pretty easy to find online. Check them out. Of course, check out the RAB Ranch as well. R.A. Brown Ranch. Sorry, I just threw. I just made another acronym like FFA and Ag does for you. But check out, they have their bull sales. They got some great horses down there too. Great history for the family as well. A very, very great website. I've complimented you guys before that. It's a great website. Shares a great story. But Tucker, hey, anything else you just want to share about your experience in ranching and storytelling and just anything before I let you get back to the grind here at Angus Convention?
I think it's important. We talk about the social media a lot, but it's so important to remember that I am a rancher first, and that we are agriculturalists first. And if we don't have that background, I think that's where the that negative connotation of influencing comes from, because it feels fake. But when you see somebody who's enjoying what they do and enjoying telling that story, it makes it so much more enticing. And we love this industry. And if now more than ever people are interested in where their food comes from, and for some reason in cowboys because of Yellowstone. But
I don't get asked if I'm from Texas anymore. No offense to you guys, but are you from Montana? I'm like, yeah, I actually am.
But if they want to know, I want them to hear it from us. I want them to hear it from people who are in it every day, that are palpating the cows, that are rotationally grazing, that are being innovators. And I hope people want to be like their granddad or like their grandma, because I think they were some of the most innovative people that have ever come through. They went from maybe not having electricity to not having AC, to bringing in new breeds of cattle, to finding new ways of finding out, like, whoa, we need a rotational graze. And we're stuck doing the things they did we're stuck doing the practices they did rather than doing the innovation they did. So I want to be like my granddad. I want to be an innovator. I want to gather my cattle on a horse to do embryo transfer. And I love that connection, and I hope others do too.
Well, again, Tucker Brown says it so well and shares it so well online as well. And again, thank you so much for joining us here today. It's going to get busy here at the convention center, but hey, speaking of conventions, we'll see you down in San Antonio the 4th through the 6th, 2025 for CattleCon. And again, Tucker, thanks for joining us.
Lane, thank you. It's been a blast.
All right, friends, that will do it for today's Cattlemen's Call. I'm Lane Nordlund. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to NCBA's Cattlemen's Call podcast with Lane Nordlund. For more information, visit ncba.org and make sure to subscribe to the podcast today.